Great games at your table. I'm Jonathan Albin. This is NycosRPG, and today it has happened. It has arrived. I have all the pieces in my hot little hands. We're going to be going over each of the elements of the NycosRPG mechanism, what the system is, and a quick overview of what is included in the system books, so you get an idea of what you might be looking for. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit all the buttons down below to let the algorithm know that you are part of our community. And let's get started, shall we?
Absorbing damage is the name of the game. From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball of flame, or strength in numbers is a roll of the dice.
Alrighty, so today we have Liftoff. The entire system is here. I will be able to show it to you, and you'll be able to get to it at a couple of different sites, and I'll give all of the information in the description below. But let's get started. Alrighty, so first of all we have the master book. Which camera? There we go. It's pretty chunky. Now, one thing to tell you is that this is in the pre-release edition. We will be doing a Kickstarter a little bit later this year, and when we do, we'll be adding things like graphic arts. As you can probably see, it's a lot of text on every page, chock full of useful information. And in this case, the master book is an introduction to tabletop role-play games. It provides each player and director the details on how to actually play the game and to get the most out of their role-play experience. The inclusion of all the details of how to build a persona, how to create a story, a little bit of information on the innovative process that's included in here, such as the Community Identification System, or CIS, so that a storyteller can build out his environment as quickly in a spontaneous nature if they want to truly be a random experience, or can provide themselves reminder details about each area or function of the game's space, so to speak, within the theater of the mind. The elements here are all fundamentally targeted to the idea of playing through verbal means only. It does, of course, accommodate use of miniatures and rules that are more detailed for that kind of function if you so desire, but it's focused on the emotional experience that can be gotten from just theater of the mind, the idea of creating the imagination's locations and descriptions for the players without the requirements of having a physical play space. It's really optimal for playing online, which I will remind you, you can actually become a part of by joining our Patreon, which also will have the link down below. But the concept of the master book is to make role-playing as easy and as simple to understand as possible, to allow players who have never experienced role-play games to really get a chance to sink their teeth into it and understand what's going on within a role-play mechanism. And the master book is set up specifically to be general in nature and cover any genre that you would want to pursue, with the idea that the creator, the storyteller of your games group, will be the one that will be driving and directing where that story goes, and therefore to not burden them with a whole bunch of rules about stuff that would not be pertinent to their particular game. So the master book is a way to actually build your initial story into flesh, into an understanding mechanically of how the numbers work and how interaction occurs in a role-play game. We will go into more detail on each of these books in subsequent videos so that you'll be able to understand how to utilize each of the books for their specific purpose. But the idea here is that the players need only to understand how to build out their persona and how the game functions, and this handles it in the arguably what has been determined to be one of the fastest mechanisms to pick up and adopt in the entire world. So That's a bold claim, but I believe I can back it up and support it with evidence. Moving on, we're going to be looking at dark shards. And the dark shards... Ooh, am I using this camera here? Switch cameras on me. The dark shards volume is even beefier, and there's a reason for that. The dark shards manual was the first one published, and it includes many of the rules that are also in the master book. And the reason for that is that if you are playing a classic fantasy RPG, to be compared with Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, this is the one volume you need for everybody, players, directors, just anybody, and provides information on the actual mechanisms of magic and how they dovetail with the rest of actions within a role-play environment, so that you're able to build out what you specifically want as a storyteller and can make it as simple or as complex as you desire. And therefore the mechanisms for things like scaling your adventure and determining what your location is like, what the environment is like, what kind of mystical rules are already in play, are all included in the dark shard, so that when you fill out your CIS for your scene, you'll have all the information as well on what is accessible in terms of magical resources and that kind of thing. So it's a one source book, and if you were going to be purchasing only one property, I'd be looking at the dark shards, because it has the meat and potatoes of the master book included in it. This book in particular is suitable for any classic fantasy setting, plus any alternative world wherein magic works, so that it's a one size fits all for classic fantasy settings. The next we're going to look at is, I'm going to make sure which way I'm looking. No, over there. Dread signs. And dread signs encompasses the period of the Great War, that is World War I, and also the concepts of cosmic horror, such as Cthulhu and Lovecraftian horror. It's, again, a volume that specifically targets that period, so it has information on availability, it has information on setting tips and mechanisms for you to be able to grab what you are looking for in a fantasy setting, specifically Lovecraftian. So it's got terms and mechanisms for emulating the Great War, the World War I era. Next we have Dawn Soldiers. And Dawn Soldiers is a volume that specifically targets information on World War II, and the concepts of superheroes are included in here, as that is historically when they started to come to the fore. And so the concepts of World War II focused on the idea that superheroes arise in that period, whether it be by nuclear weapons and cosmic war. Nuclear weapons or other weapons of mass destruction, superhero serums, and that all of those things that are classic superhero tropes fundamentally arose during the World War II era, and so therefore this book encompasses ways. It even has a section on lingo and dialects, so that you can have your characters immersed in that environment, to using the dialect and the dialogue that was utilized in that period, and to focus clearly on the really big bads that every culture seems to desire to hunt down, and so therefore there's a way to pursue those kind of storylines. And it's again open, as in the Dark Shards is, to go with alternate realities, and it does include matter of fact, I should mention that all of the NycosRPG books encompass additional species, although each has a separate, narrowed list. Arguably, the largest list of species to play or whatever is found in the Dark Shards book. And so what you'll find is that you'll be able to work your game hand in hand, utilizing more than one of these as it suits your purposes, but therefore isolating the information so that it doesn't leak over directly. You can actually find the information to make your game specifically, uniquely yours. Next, we have Deep State. And Deep State is fundamentally stripped from the newspapers today. It's modern conspiracies, techno-thriller data, mechanisms on how to utilize like computer technology and AI within your role-play mechanism, and how you can engage in the same kind of James Bondian, Jack Reacher, name your favorite super spy, and that's the purpose for the Deep State book. It includes some political intrigue elements so that you can cross them over from one to the other and the like, but it's really set up to open your imagination to possibilities within that framework that you may not have. Now, it nests really well with the master booking, covering the routine, mundane, mechanical things that need to be understood in order to play out a super spy type of a storyline. But again, it's each of these is isolated to its particular genre. Each system book has the material information necessary to make that game in particular pop the way you would like it to do. Next is one that's been asked for a lot, and that is Distant Suns. And this is your space operas. It's starship combat. It's got information on technobabble, how to technobabble properly, and has a bunch of different terms and mechanisms that would be useful in your games to make it feel like you're actually out in adventuring space. There will be another one that will be coming in the future, in theory, that will be covering specifically near-Earth activities, and so this one is much more of your distant future, the space operas, warp speed and jumping through wormholes and the such. And then finally we have Downshift, and this is one of the anchors for the entire system. Downshift is dark future, post-apocalyptic. It's the end times as we know it, and we feel fine. But this covers a few advances in our culture beyond where we are now, so it's a bit futuristic, so it's perfect also for developing your dystopian storylines like Equilibrium or other Matrix-like stories that are in the future and under the post-apocalypse category, simply because they are after the fall of our current culture and society. So finally, this is all available now. You can go to NycosRPG.com, and the PDFs are available in our shop there. For ease of getting involved, there is also a Play Now section, and on the Play Now, you'd be able to download the community identity sheet for setting up your adventures as a storyteller. There's also player persona packets that include everything required for a persona to really build out who they are within the framework of whichever story your game master has built. And it also includes a free downloadable fast play mechanism that allows you to actually sink your teeth into how the game works and get involved and start playing right now. And in my future videos, I realize I'll probably put that information first because that's what's going to catch people's attention. But now that you've made it here to the end of the video, I want to thank you for your time. Make sure you like and comment and tell me what genres you'd like to see entire genre books on beyond the ones that I've already discussed, or to ask any questions you might have about the ones that are included in the system. Now, we will be doing sales promotion and reaching out to game stores in the next few weeks. But if you have a game store nearby and you'd like to have them order it or get in contact with me, go ahead and give them this video and let them know that they can get to be a part of it. I do include keystone pricing and all of that, so they can reach out to me however they want. And in the meantime, I want to thank you for being here for today, and we will see you at the next episode. Remember, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. every day, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you would want right here on Twitch. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.